Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Pod. It's brought to you by SodaStick and SodaStick.com and Culturama. And Pat, we have a lot to talk about today. The Minnesota Wild are becoming like the NFL, where they're in the news every single day. And we're joined right out of the gate by their first-round draft pick, number 9 overall, Marco Rossi, who is joining us live from Austria right now. And Marco, nice to meet you. Congratulations on getting drafted in the first round. And what has it been, like 40 hours since you've been drafted? What is this? Have you had a chance to breathe? Have you had a chance to relax, or has it been kind of a whirlwind here?
Yeah, it's crazy right now. I just went for a walk right now, just like to realize what just happened.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy because draft was a very special moment for us all, for the whole family. It was mixed with a lot of emotions because my family, they sacrificed so much for me. And then just like hearing from an NHL team, like hearing your name, it was like the biggest present I could get.
Hey, Marco, let me tell you one thing. Last week, Brandon and I, we do this on a weekly basis. And Brandon, from the get-go, wanted you to be a member of this Minnesota Wild organization. So, you've got a big fan out of the gate with my partner here, Brandon. So, but anyway, congratulations to you. What was it like on draft day? I mean, did you have any inkling about where you might be going, or what was your thoughts going into draft day?
First of all, it was very stressful with the whole media thing, but I enjoyed the moment because it's once in your life and you will never do this again. So I told my family, like before the draft, doesn't matter who's gonna take me, we're just enjoying that moment because I know the team was gonna draft me, they want me 100%. So that was like my mindset. I'm very happy to be a part of the Minnesota Wild now.
What did you know about the Wild before they drafted you? I know your quotes that night said, "Hey, they need a center. I'm a center." So you had to have known that they were lacking in that position. But how much do you follow the Minnesota Wild, the NHL? How much did you know about the team before they drafted you?
I know it's cold during winter. No, I know it's like a hockey state there with Minnesota, and it's a really good stadium. I've heard like at the arena there, the Exit Energy, I think it's called.
Yep.
It's really nice there, and they have really good players. And so yeah, I'm very happy to be there now.
Explain to the fans what type of player you are, what you like to do, and what makes you such a good player.
I'm a playmaker, very good hockey IQ with good hockey sense, play a 200-foot game, and I love to compete hard.
Now we're talking with Marco Rossi from the Ottawa 67s and Austria. He's the number 9 overall pick for the Minnesota Wild. And what was it like to have a teammate of yours in Ottawa drafted right before you there, in Jack Quinn? I have to imagine after a pretty special season for you guys, kind of cherry on top there to have you both drafted in the top 10.
Yeah, I'm so happy for him because he's a really good friend of me, and we had like the same situation with the draft year, and we just pushed each other on the ice, off the ice. And yeah, like I said, he's a good friend of me. I'm so happy for him. And yeah.
As Pat mentioned, I was pretty high on you, and I mentioned with him that I thought you were one of the top 3 picks in this draft. Kind of the knock on you, which drives me crazy, probably drives you even more crazy, is your height. What does it just anger you when you hear people talking about dismissing you because of your height?
Of course, it's annoying, but I've heard it so many times. In my mind, it's just like I may be smaller, but I'm stronger than the other guys.
And now, obviously, with an extended off season here, with COVID and ending seasons early, and we might not have NHL action until January 1st. Mm-hmm. From what I've seen from you, you've been working extremely hard. What specifically have you been working on during this extended time off here? What are the areas that you felt like you needed to improve on?
Yeah, so when the season got canceled, I flew right away back home, and I was at home in mid of March. And like the next 2 days, I started right away with the off season with my personal coach here in Austria. And my main goal was to get much faster, more explosiveness, just improving my speed, because I know like the biggest step from junior hockey to the next step to the pro hockey is going to be the speed. So we had 7 months time to do that. And we did like so much. We did like balance, we did speed, and that I got stronger, endurance. We did so much, like everything we could. And if you compare me right now, like in March and now, you see like completely two different persons. And I even went on the ice with Zurich with the pro team, and I feel unreal. And I'm so happy that I had the time with the COVID, like the whole COVID thing. I see it so positive because if it wouldn't happen, I wouldn't be that good right now and be so strong and with my body.
Well, without games, how do you know you're so much faster? I mean, you getting a stopwatch out there? I mean, how do you know you've made progress?
Everything, like I went on the ice of Zurich with the pro team, and I used to play there like, when was that? 2 years, like before I went to Ottawa, and I just could see it there with the speed, and then I feel really comfortable, and I feel really strong on my skates. And yeah, of course, I went on the ice with me, like by myself with the coaches, and we did a lot of testing too. And you could see the results like are incredible, and I'm very happy with me.
Do you believe that you're ready to step into the National Hockey League next year and play a significant role with the Minnesota Wild?
Yes, I'm ready.
Hey, I love confidence, right? And obviously, as you mentioned, taking that next jump, that next step. Have you talked to any other players, veterans, in getting yourself mentally prepared for that next step?
Yeah, I've been skating with Zurich, and there was like Dennis Mulligan, he was playing for Toronto Maple Leafs, Mirko Müller. Then I've been skating with Timo Meyer,
Yeah.
Markus Krüger. So a lot of NHL players who played before or still playing there.
Yep.
And we were just talking. They gave me advices, so it's really good for me because then I know more what's gonna expect me. So it was really good to skate with them.
Well, a lot of changes going on with this organization, which, is quite exciting. I think, not only, for guys like us, but, the fans and I'd hate to see say it's a complete makeover, but certainly a lot of new faces. And, this team wants to get younger, and it wants to get faster, and it wants to get more skilled. And, bringing in a guy like yourself and Kaprizov and obviously, about Kevin Fiala, should be exciting here in Minnesota.
Yeah, I've heard like really good players, young players, and they want to do like a rebuild. So, and they need centers. So I'm very happy to be part of the team, but I know it's still going to be a lot of hard work to make the team. And first, it's the training camp, and I just got to prove myself that I'm ready.
Have any of the Wild players reached out to you since you've been drafted?
Jared, Spurgeon, and yeah.
Let's talk about your relationship with your father. I know he played professionally for 20 years. I don't know how old you were when he stopped playing, but what do you remember about watching him? What kind of a player was he?
He was a defenseman and mostly a home defenseman, so nothing. Um, but it was good to see that, and I just had like so much fun just seeing my dad on the ice, and he was like the biggest influence why I became a hockey player. With 3 years old, I was the first time on the ice and just skating with my dad, and then with 13, I went to Zurich, and at that point, it was really tough for my dad and for my whole family. I had to get up in the morning. I went to school. My dad had to go to work. And then after school, he picked me up and we drove to Zurich. And that's like 1 hour, 30 minutes away. So it's not like 20, 30 minutes away. It's really, really long. And now I had practice there. After practice, I came home like at midnight, 12. Then I was hungry. He had to cook for me, or my mom had to cook for me. And then the laundry, my dad had to make for my mom. Then I went to bed like at 1 a.m. and then we did the next day again. And we did that for 4 years. It was tough for me, of course, but for my dad and for my whole family, it was like very tough. My dad lost 2 jobs in that time. So when you're 13 and you see everything like that, what's happening right now, you start to realize, okay, if I want to go to Zurich, it's not just like for fun. I gotta be like very professional with that young age and gotta do it to 100% if you want to do that. So having I would say with 13 having that mindset, it's hard, but that got me like so much better, and my mental game or my mental part is so strong right now.
Having to do that, I mean, I can't imagine, number one, but that had to make you so much more stronger mentally as a player, which I think is going to be helpful. Did your father play in the Austrian Pro League, or what was his career like?
Yeah, he played the first pro game when he was 18, and then he played till 35, 36.
In the Austrian League?
Yeah.
What team did he play for?
It's my hometown. It's called Feldkirch.
Okay.
Lustenau, Graz. So he played some Austrian teams.
Yeah. Okay.
Did you play in Austria, Pat?
We played against a lot of Austrian teams: Graz, Feldkirch, Innsbruck. I had a team at the time. I played in the Italian league for 4 years.
Okay.
Yep.
And he's also a shorter guy, so you can get advice from him as well.
Yeah, I'm 5'9", no problem. You can play
I don't think you're as strong as Marco is, Pat, but
no, that's probably true. Yeah.
Marco, you seem to be kind of all hockey all the time. What do you like to do away from the ice? Is there anything fun? Anything that's fun for you? Any hobbies away from hockey?
I love to go just like seeing the city, like with my friends, with my family, spending a lot of time with them, and just like going away from hockey is good, like for your head, just like going to different things, not just hockey. And I love to go to the cities. I love to go shopping, just like the normal thing. And I'm a big fan of soccer and tennis.
How excited are you to get to Minnesota?
Very excited. It was like one of the best interviews I had before in the draft, and my agent too. So I was just waiting, and I was like I said before, I was just like saying to my family, doesn't matter who's gonna draft me, the team is gonna draft me. I'm feeling very comfortable because I know they want me 100%. So when they were on the pick, I was hoping for that moment, and then when I heard my name, I was so happy.
Were you getting nervous at any point? Because, like I said, you were a guy that could have gone, number 4 overall. And once you start getting to 9, do you ever start kind of self-doubting yourself at any point, or were you? Yeah, I imagine with your confidence that probably didn't ever cross your mind.
No, not at all. Like I said before, I was open for everything. I'm just gonna wait till I hear my name. If it's gonna be at 4 or 9, at the end it doesn't make any difference because you gotta still make the team, the NHL team, and yeah, so doesn't mean anything.
Let's say that you for some reason that they want you to get more experience. Would that mean going back to Ottawa for another year if that were the case?
To be honest, I don't really know what's gonna happen because I'm not really thinking too much about that. Because if I were thinking what's the second option, then I would think too much about that. But yeah, I have a meeting tomorrow with the GM and with my agent, and then we're just going from there. What are my plans, and they will tell me what I have to do.
Marco, we really appreciate your time, especially since we get the time difference, and I know you've had a lot of people probably texting you and a lot of media asking you for requests over the last day and a half or so. So really appreciate your time, and we look forward to seeing you in Minnesota.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it a lot. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Good luck.
Marco Rossi, number 9 overall to the Minnesota Wild. And Pat, we have a lot to talk about with all the moves the Wild have been making. But let's talk about the draft pick, because as you mentioned, I wanted Rossi. I wanted the team to actually trade up a couple spots because I wasn't convinced he was going to drop to 9. So it's kind of a best case scenario where, in my opinion, he's the best player on the board, also at a position of need, and you didn't have to trade up to get him.
Yeah, I like his confidence, Brandon. And you know what? Yeah. And he's not a one-dimensional player. He can distribute the puck and he can score. And you've got to have more than one arrow in your quiver. And a lot of guys don't make it because they are, just that one-dimensional player. And a one-dimensional player can probably get shut down more often than a guy with more weapons. And I like his confidence, I like his attitude. And listen, we talked about it. There's going to be changes. He's going to have a great opportunity to make this hockey team. Now, whether he does or not, we know there's going to be growing pains. He's not going to come in and get you 100 points his rookie year, but if they and I think they have, Minnesota has the right organizational guys around to be able to handle them and teach them. And so just, I'm looking forward to seeing them play.
I'll continue talking about him in a second, but first I want to let our listeners and viewers know about, make sure you go to sodastick.com to get your original Minnesota sports-inspired goods. They just launched their partnership with Michelob Golden Light for the Michelob Golden Light Pond Hockey Club merch line. The logo features a Paul Bunyan-looking hockey dude cheersing a beer. They've got it on shirts, hoodies, hats, and more. If you haven't seen it yet, you got to check it out. And we're going to hook you up with free shipping. Just make sure you use the code KFAN for free shipping. That is sodastick.com. Original Minnesota sports-inspired goods. Use the code KFAN for free shipping. And I want to just continue on the Rossi conversation before we move on to a bunch of other Minnesota Wild topics, Pat. The discussion now is, can he play year one? And I'm going to drop you off for a second here, Pat, because we're kind of having some issues with the signal. The question is, can he play year one for the Minnesota Wild? And typically a number 9 overall draft pick is not going to be on the team right out of the gate. I do think he is set up more. Like I said, I would have picked him number 3, but he's top 5-ish in a deep draft. He even though he's a center, you mentioned the skill stuff, the shot, the playmaking, the stick handling, but he's also very responsible defensively and has a great work ethic. Is very, very strong for his size. I think he has an NHL body already, even though he's only got the 5'9" height. So he has all of those elements where I do think he can probably step in year one and play for this team.
The biggest step for him is, now you got to remember his age, right? And
he's a little older, yep.
But he's going into a man's league now. I mean, he's going to be playing with some older players, more mature players, and for me, it's all about the mental. You mentioned the physical attributes. He's fine there, and he's only going to get bigger and stronger. But it's the mental part of it, and I think a big key to his success will be his teammates and how they treat him and how they welcome him and how they help him grow into a National Hockey League player. Because no matter what, and I don't care who it is, from Gretzky to Austin Matthews to anybody, right? It's intimidating initially, and so you've got to you've got to mature in a hurry, and you only do that by having really, really good teammates to help you along the way. And Jared Spurgeon, big shock that he called him, right? That's Jared Spurgeon. And so when you have guys like that, it's going to make the transition that much easier for him.
And, we just had a 12-minute conversation with him, Pat, but does he not look mature?
Oh my gosh.
Wise beyond his years. He looks very mature for his age. And just hearing his story, I think he's kind of been having a professional hockey mentality here for 3-4 years. Like, he knew that's what he wanted to do, and he was going to act like a professional. I read up on him and his billet family in Ottawa, and he's not out partying. He was all hockey all the time. Yeah. He knew this was his destination.
And you know what? You could hear the thankfulness in his voice toward his parents, and he realized, when he said, "Hey, if my dad's doing this, driving me every day that length of time, I better get serious right now." A lot of kids probably don't understand that, and he did, and that really shows you that there's some character in this kid, and you need character.
He's a super skilled player, but almost still has a little bit of in terms of work ethic and needing to get better, like a 3rd line, 4th line mentality. He has the confidence of a top player.
Yep.
He has confidence in his abilities, but he's also not gonna cheat out on the ice or while he's training. You can just tell and the last I saw him was on tape from February, March, and he's on here telling us how much better he's gotten since then.
Yeah.
Who knows how good he could be.
Exactly. And again, we don't want to make him out to be,
sure.
The superstar, and we got to be careful. But what we're saying, and I think you would agree, is that everything is there for him to become a really, really good National Hockey League player. And the everything starts in November.
All right, Wild have made a bunch of changes since I last talked to you. Let's go through. I think 3 trades they've made. Let's go with the first one.
Okay.
That was the Wild sent Ryan Donato to the San Jose Sharks for a third round selection. I mentioned to you last week on the show, Pat, that Bill Guerin was talking up Ryan Donato so much that it made me believe he wanted to trade him, and that was exactly the case. And I know there are some people that are concerned about why are we giving up on this guy who scored 14 goals for you in a limited role, from a per goals per minute category. He was up there with the Connor McDavids in the National Hockey League in terms of 5-on-5 play. But I had heard that basically his agent and him wanted out. They wanted to move on, and I don't blame them with the amount of playing time he got, given the production he had. But for Wild fans that are upset that he's on his way to somewhere else, they kind of forced their way out, and understandably so.
I look at Ryan in this sense, Brandon. You mentioned 14 goals, all even strength, goals per minute, whatever. The thing with him is he needs somebody to say, no matter what, you're going to be in a top 6 role. We're going to stick with you and have the confidence that you're going to do it.
And play on the power play.
And play the power play.
Yeah.
And in Boston, they didn't, he wasn't, or, they didn't believe enough in him that he was that guy. In Minnesota, they didn't believe in him enough to be that guy. And right or wrong, I'm not making judgment that both these teams made a mistake, but that's the stigma that he has. What is he? People talk, well, he's not a third liner. He's not a fourth liner. He's got to be in the top 6. Then what are you? Who's going to do that? And hopefully, San Jose will give him that shot. I don't know if they will. I don't know how long they'll stick with him there, but he gets another opportunity. So good for him.
When the Wild acquired him for Charlie Coyle, and he had a nice little run here towards the end of that season 2 years ago, and he played really well. And I loved him because he was a shot first guy. He was aggressive with his shot, which was lacking on this team for quite some time. My disappointment with him last year, even though he did score 14 goals, Pat, was I saw the goaltender, the goal scoring mentality in him. He had the great shot, the great release. I wanted him to improve his skating, get stronger. And I felt like that area of his game, that element of his game, did not improve last year. That's one of those things that over a long offseason here, well, I guess they didn't have the long offseason because they played in August, but over this course of time, if there's ever a way he can improve his skating, get stronger in his skates where he's not getting bounced off the puck, because of his ability to shoot the puck, I still think there is some potential if he can just improve that element of his game.
Yeah, that's the question, right? Can he play a full season against the first set of D and the second set of D for other teams on a consistent basis? Can he get through, not getting knocked around, like he would, playing more minutes? And so I think that's kind of been the question mark on him. So, let's see what happens in San Jose.
There's another Wild player moving on to San Jose. That would be the goaltender Devin Dubnyk. The Wild traded Dubnyk and a 7th-round pick in 2022 to the Sharks for a 5th-round pick in 2022. To me, Pat, this is just it's a cheaper buyout. Yeah, they're still gonna take half of Dubnyk's salary, but the amount you're gonna have to pay Dubnyk and the amount against the salary cap is slightly less had you bought him out, and you go from the 7th round to 5th round. So to me, it's just a buyout with a little bit more on top there.
Well, we knew that one of the positions that they wanted to address was goaltending, and this gives Devin another opportunity. And he had a tough year with the family, and it was probably the right time to move on. And listen, I've said it before, I'll say it again. When he came in, he saved the franchise that year, and he had a lot of terrific games in a Wild uniform. So good guy, and we wish him the best.
Well, and we've talked about quite often with him in the playoffs of You've kind of gotten the feeling over the last 2 years that the players just don't trust him and don't play the same way for him as they for an Alex Stalock. So one, I think from a player's mentality standpoint, this is going to be good to kind of hit the reset button a little bit and get some new blood in between the pipes and maybe change the mentality of the players. But it's also good for Devin Dubnyk because the last 2 years have not gone the way, both on and off the ice, the way he would want to go. And I think it's probably good for him to have a new team, a new culture, because he has had good moments in his career, Pat. This isn't the guy. This isn't the guy who's been a failure.
No, absolutely. And you talk about the mentality and the thought process behind a goaltender. I think when Minnesota gets a new goaltender, that's going to give life to everybody. I don't know who it's going to be, if it's going to be Fleury or Markstrom or Holtby or the whoever it is going to be, right? That's going to give a little energy, I think, to everybody in the organization, and it's going to help the team.
Fleury has been kind of the main name in the rumor mills, especially anytime it's coming from Michael Russo's mouth. I believe there's something behind it.
Yeah,
I want to know your thoughts on it, because I've heard from others that are concerned about why would you bring in a goalie who's making $7 million and older in his career and maybe not performing to where he once was. But Pat, I would say one, Bill Guerin knows him well, obviously from Pittsburgh. Two, he's had great moments in his career, and I just because he's had a bad year, to me, I'm still a believer he can show up for you, especially come playoff time. Three, you need to have a goalie exposed for Seattle so that you don't lose Kakkonen. And four, it kind of gives you a nice bridge to Kaapo Kakkonen or maybe other goalie in the system where, hey, we can depend on Fleury. It's not a long-term answer. He's not 4 or 5 years, but we can get a year or two out of him, see what we got in Kakkonen, and then at that point, maybe Kakkonen shows he's enough to be the guy. But at this point, I don't think anyone's confident enough that Kakkonen can just be thrown right in and be your number one goalie full time.
Well, I'm not even going to comment because everything you said is what I would say. To throw Kakkonen in to a situation and give him the number one job now with only 5 games under his belt, or whatever it is. I think that's hard. Not that he's not ready, but you know what? If you're committed to winning and you do things the right way, and I think by getting a guy like Fleury, it's going to do that. It's going to accomplish that, and it's also going to get younger guys ready for when Fleury's not able to play, and he moves on in his career. And so, listen, this team wants to win, and they want to change things up, and they're doing that. And so, I'm really looking forward to the start.
Well, they want to change the culture, which is a great segue for you to tell us about one of our sponsors on Beyond the Pod. That would be Culturama.
Yes, Culturama. Having trouble getting brand recognition, media exposure, or promotion? Looking to find specialized tournament or event management services? At Culturama, they cultivate, collaborate, and connect you to new business strategies to maximize your organization's publicity through strategic brand development, multimedia creation, social media design, sponsorship promotion, targeted marketing plans, or event management services. With over 20 years of experience, Culturama creative teams will guide you through a comprehensive plan to reach your brand goals. Follow, like, and subscribe to Culturama today to learn how to obtain a PR plan.
All right, let's move on to another trade that was made yesterday during the second round of the draft, Pat. The Wild ship Luke Kunin and pick, I can't find it. Where
Nick Bonino.
Let's say they get Nick Bonino. They got a second round pick, and they also swap.
37, I think. Right.
They also swapped 2 other picks where they moved up in the draft. I like the trade. What did you think?
Yeah, so did I. You know what? Again, I'll go back to the thought process of the management. They want to win, and they know sometimes, and we've talked about it. To get good players, you have to trade an asset, and they didn't feel long term that Luke Kunin was a guy that was going to be part of a championship team here. And for whatever reason, the fit, the style, the the role that a player is going to fill, and they get a guy in Nick Bonino. Now he's older; he's been around in the league for a long time. He's not a superstar, but he's a trustworthy guy. He puts up about 35 points a game. He's trustworthy. He's a veteran. He's got a ton of experience, and it just adds something that they probably need a little bit of. And so let's not forget, I think it was 2 years ago, he went out on the ice late in a game in a big situation with a broken leg and blocked a shot. I mean, the guy knows how to win, and you need that type of culture around here. And so I think it was a good move.
Let's talk about the Cunnin aspect of this side.
Yep.
I've heard people do the old, how do you give up on a 22-year-old that scored 15 goals last season? And Pat, I would say if you are projecting a player, if you've seen enough of them where you think, hey, this guy's not going to keep moving up on an upward trajectory, if this is kind of if this is his plateau,
Yep.
then to me, it's actually beneficial to your team to move him while he still has that value, while there are others in the league that might think they can get more out of him. Luke Cunnin's a solid player. He's a solid National Hockey League player. In my opinion, I just kind of think he's going to be a good third line winger throughout his career. I don't see a lot more upside out of him than what we've seen so far. I think what you've seen, I think, is what you're going to get the rest of his career. So if you have others in the league that think, hey, we can get more out of him, and you don't believe that you can get more out of him, then you trade him now before that value starts to wane and gets worsened. So, and as you mentioned, to me, you're trading a third line wing, you're bringing in a third line center, and you moved up and got a second round pick that was a center from Russia yesterday that I'm not going to act like I know a lot about, but if it's someone you value a lot to get an important position, another skill player in a draft that was a pretty deep draft to get an early second round pick, to me, I think this is a good move for the Wild.
Where did Luke go? I think he went 19th overall or 15th?
Yeah, mid to late first round.
Yeah, and so Minnesota has been stuck there for years drafting in that. They weren't able to get that difference maker, and I think you hit it on the head. Luke is going to be a solid player. He's not going to be a great player. Not going to be a bad player.
Yep.
He's just going to be solid, and and there's nothing wrong with that. Good for him. But this team needs something to get them over the edge and progress where they are at. And so I like the move. We wish him luck in Nashville, and you move on.
Well, and you got a couple guys now where Bonino's making $4 million, Johansson's making $4 million that are both be coming off the books.
Yeah.
After this upcoming season. So even if it doesn't work out and the year doesn't go, you're going to have some salary cap space going into the next season with Kaprizov and Fiala and hopefully Rossi and some other good young talented players. They got some, they finally got some prospects built up here, Pat, that we can talk about. So I think people look too much at the 2020, 2021 season as opposed to let's look 2, 3, 4 years down the line from now.
Yeah, exactly. And to your point on the expiring contracts, listen, these guys want to play in the league. Okay. So you're going to see a motivated Bonino. You're going to see a motivated Johansson.
Bukestad.
And Bukestad, same thing, right? These guys are in prove-it years. And if you're in a prove-it year, you're going to be motivated to play. And if you're motivated to play and can play up to the level that the organization acquired you for, well, and they do, that's going to make the team better. And so that's the exciting part about it for me.
Do you have a Soda Stick shirt on, by the way? Is that a Soda Stick? Yeah, why don't you show it? Put it on. Show it on YouTube.
Show it. It's a little cold. I don't even know what it says. Do you see?
Best of the year.
It's got
That's the bit they were doing with the helmet at the end of the games after the Minnesota Wild victories. Yeah, I like it. Sodastick.com. Use the code KFN for free shipping.
Absolutely.
All right, a couple other Wild. They give us news daily. Maybe the one move I'm not too sure about that's been done in the last week, because I think I've been pretty positive about everything else Minnesota Wild related. The Wild signed Carson Soucy to a 3-year, $8.25 million contract, so $2.75 a year. I like Carson Soucy. I thought he had a good season. The little 4-game playoff, I did not think he played very well. I liked him. Would like him to be here. 2.75 might seem a little rich to me, especially when you have so much money tied up with 4 other defensemen. Though, I guess if they trade Matt Dumba and Carson Soucy ends up becoming a second pairing defenseman for you and shows he can do it, then that turns out to be a decent deal. But 2.75 against the cap seemed a little too rich for my blood.
Well, I'm going to be interesting to see the motivation out of Carson Soucy. I'll take you back, Brandon, to when they first signed him. And they put him in the lineup right away. It was the end of the year against LA, I think his first game was. And they're like, oh, boy, that pretty darn good. And then he came into camp the next year and was out of shape.
Well, and he played in the playoffs that year, by the way, his first year.
Did. Thank you.
Because they had some injuries.
And he came into camp the following year, not in shape. In fact, was a healthy scratch down in Iowa. And then something clicked and he got motivated and he was their best defenseman at the end of the year. Lo and behold, he makes Minnesota this past year, right? And he plays pretty darn good.
Yep.
And then we had the break and then we came to the playoffs and it was not the Carson Soucy we saw during the year. Now he was hurt and, we'll get that. And, so, may have not
You're right.
May have not been game ready. I'm not going to, rip on him for that. Happens to everybody. So for me, after signing this contract that he just signed, I want to see the motivation because guess what? If they do move Matt Dumba, and who knows what's going to happen there, he's going to be forced to play in a top 4 role on defense. And they're going to be counting on him. So that to me is going to be, a big key for Minnesota this year. Should they lose a Matt Dumba, how is Carson Soucy going to play in that role? Can he handle it all year, playing against the top lines all season long? So, I'm glad they re-signed him. We'll see if he's worth the contract that they gave him.
They also signed Nico Sturm to a 2-year, $1.45 million contract, one-way contract for him.
What is that, right?
Congratulations to Nico.
Yeah, and he's going to be on this team. And so, and that's what I'd like to, Brandon, the competition now that's going to be created. Because you have Rossi, you have Johansson, although I think when all is said and done, he will be on the left side because I don't think they're done yet. But then you've got Sturm and you've got Eriksson Ek.
Yep. And Bonino.
And Bonino.
And Bukestad.
Bukestad. So there's going to be some competition for spots, which is, I think.
And Victor Rask.
And Victor Rask, who Billy Guerin wants to get more ice time to this year. And so be it. So it's going to be, it's going to be I hate to say interesting training camp, but a competitive training camp, which I think is great.
All right, let's move on quickly to a little bit of college hockey since we could have just been going on forever here talking Minnesota Wild, but we have to end the podcast at some point to kind of 2 college hockey topics. One, the Big Ten announced their schedule. It's basically going to be an all Big Ten schedule, except for they are co-oping with Arizona State to play all of the teams in the Big Ten. So, understandable, but still disappointing that we're not going to be playing the St. Clouds and the Duluths and the Mankato's.
Bemidji, yeah. Listen, we knew it was going to be a different year in terms of even getting on the ice. I found out yesterday that some players on St. Cloud have contracted COVID, now they're on a 14-day quarantine as a team, and so they're off the ice now. And so we've just got hope that they're going to be able to pull this thing off. Looks like November 13th is the date for the first game, at least for the Big Ten. So let's be hopeful, but certainly going to be a different year.
And then finally, a guest on this podcast about 4, 5, 6 weeks ago the head coach at the University of St. Thomas, Jeff Duke Besser, announcing that he's going to retire once the team moves on to Division I. So they have one more year in the MIAC, and this is a program that's going Division I. It's going to have a new arena. It's in the Twin Cities. It's in a hockey hotbed. This is a desirable job that's opening up here, Pat.
Oh, for forever, and you and I were hoping this was going to happen 5 years ago, or even more. I think it's a gold mine, especially if they get the arena, and there's going to be so many more opportunities, and I tell you what, it puts a lot of pressure on Minnesota, Bemidji, St. Cloud, Mankato. There's going to be recruiting battles going on now, and that is wonderful for college hockey, and congrats to Duke. He's done a terrific job at St. Thomas, and he'll prepare the guys that will be returning for next year how to play Division I hockey and how to get ready for it. So good for him, and congrats.
I was trying to think of what potential names could be out there. I know you don't have to go the Minnesota route, but it always just seems like, knowing the area, and Minnesota fans love Minnesota names.
Oh, they do. Yep.
And you kind of, I think St. Thomas probably wants to make a big splash. They kind of probably want some name recognition. And I was trying to think of names that might be available in Minnesota hockey. Really, I couldn't think of a lot except for I kind of thought of Grant Petolny at Northern Michigan. If he ever wanted to move back home, to move back to the Twin Cities, where it's a little bit more of a hockey hotbed. He has a history of at Northern Michigan of taking kind of D3 talent, and they were second in the league right out of the gate year one. So other than Grant Petolny, I couldn't think of a ton of names, but I think that might be a good fit for St. Thomas if that's something he wanted to do, if he wanted to make the switch.
I'll throw a couple names at you if we're talking Minnesota guys. Well, let me preface that by saying this will be a coveted job.
Yes.
By any coach in the country. Okay. That I know for sure. If we're talking Minnesota guys, I look at guys like Mike Gensel, who is a scout for the Arizona Coyotes right now. I look at a guy like Scott Bell, who has now, played at Minnesota, was an assistant there, coached in the MIAC, kind of knows that player. And there's guys that are going to be on this team that, will make that transition. There's a guy like Marco Rossi, who is at Wisconsin, who I'm has had a great pro career, associate head coach with Tony Granato there. There's going to be plenty of names and plenty of big names, I predict, that are going to be going after a very coveted job.
I'm sure Phil Eston, the athletic director, is getting a lot of emails with a lot of resumes over the last 48 hours, last couple of weeks or so.
And trust me, I think Duke is going to have a big say in who takes over his program. I really do. And if they don't use him, I think it'd be a mistake because he's got a lot of experience in this game, has been around an awfully long time, as you and I both know. So I think he might have some say in who succeeds him.
Pat, really appreciate your time. There was a ton to talk about. We'll see if we have anything to talk about next week on Beyond the Pod.
Sounds great, Brandon. Have a great week.
All right. He's Pat Micheletti. I'm Brandon Mileski. This has been another episode of Beyond the Pod, brought to you by Soda Stick and sodastick.com. Make sure you use the code KFN for free shipping, and Culturama. You can listen to this podcast on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts. Or if you're listening right now, you can watch this on the KFN YouTube channel. Just make sure you subscribe. Thanks for watching or listening to Beyond the Pod. Bye.